Now let's talk about some Counter-Strike, because apparently trademarks for a Counter-Strike 2 have been filed by Valve. It looks like we're getting closer to a final full sequel for Counter-Strike 2, with fresh trademark filings connected to both Global Offensive and, somewhat tellingly, CS2, seem to suggest that Counter-Strike 2 is on the way. Initially, it seemed like a long-awaited engine update with CSGO Source 2 was imminent, but actually, digging into the United States patent, it seems to suggest it could be a full Counter-Strike 2 instead. On the 14th of March, Valve Corporation submitted a trademark application for something called CS2. The filing contained a related properties section, which outlines any other Valve trademarks to which CS2 may be connected, containing 2 serial numbers that happen to match Counter-Strike and CSGO. Valve has filed for a new trademark for something called CS2, and it's linked to both CSGO brands. Now, I don't know a huge amount about Counter-Strike myself. I do play a little bit, but I have someone right here who knows an awful lot more, and that is Will. Will, how are you?
Oh, I'm great.
That's good to hear, man. I'm very excited to hear about your take on this. So, Counter-Strike 2, what are your thoughts? What are your first thoughts on that?
So it's very exciting because obviously Counter-Strike or CSGO has been, it's been around since 2012, so it's been a long time coming. That means there's a lot of die-hard players in the community, but equally a lot of players who are reluctant to join when there's things like Valorant, which seem a lot shinier. So it's nice that we could potentially get some fresh eyes coming in. And also it's very exciting to see what these new updates could bring, because there's a lot of rumours.
Yeah, I mean, what sort of rumours have you been hearing?
So I've been hearing about potentially 128 tick servers, which would be the same as Faceit. So that's for matchmaking, means that smoke lineups would be the same per matchmaking and competitive pro level. But equally there's potential that there could be tickless servers, which is also very similar but equally exciting in regards to would not be tick based at all, which is something I do not understand the technology behind, but it's very cool.
No, you said that, I was thinking, hang on, that can't possibly be right. But maybe that, this is Valve. Valve, if anyone can do the technology to make that work, I think it might be Gabe Newell's team. So
it might be, yeah.
And so obviously you mentioned about the fact it's been out since 2012, which is a very long time. I mean, basically the CS:GO esports scene started like then, the Counter-Strike esports scene really. So for them to change the game so significantly now would be a huge step. I mean, what exactly would you want from a true sequel? What would you want to see really step forward?
See, this is where it's really interesting, because the direction of Counter-Strike it's so set in its ways for a game which derives from iteration of originally being a mod in its own right. Maps used to be created way more frequently, and then we've had a bit of a stagnation in the map pool. So with this new update, if we're going to Source 2, we could potentially get much nicer lighting effects, and graphically it should be much more interesting, but I'm hoping that should inspire more map design, which potentially could finally get rid of Mirage from the map pool, which would be very
You're not
nice.
a Mirage fan?
I am very bored of Mirage. It's been overplayed. Yeah, so yeah.
I mean, when I think of CSGO, I think of Mirage and Dust, basically. Those are that's what comes to mind initially. Because there's only, how many maps are there? There's not that many, is there?
I can't remember the number off the top of my head, but there's quite a few. And mostly, the majority of the maps in the map pool have been around since the beginning of CSGO, if not earlier than that, which is quite interesting.
So let's see if we get a refresh of those with a potential new game. And what about anything else in terms of mechanically or any updates? Do you think, because, I mean, CSGO's kind of got its formula down pat, right? So what could they change? So
this is where it's really interesting, because if they do change the mechanics, you've had this happen before when we've gone from CS 1.6 and CS Source, where some pro players can't transition because they don't adapt quite as well. So this could be really exciting, but also very scary for a lot of people in this regard. Mechanically, you used to have players like Foon, who used to b-hop around maps and just fly around the map, and that's what they were known for. Then we went to CSGO, it just wasn't possible in the same way. So I am excited, but I'm also a little scared, but equally, as much as the core gameplay is amazing, I'm open to them being able to do something which is even better, whether that's just smoother and of the same thing, or if it's a subtle iteration which has great impact, then I don't know, it could be really interesting.
I mean, yeah. So outside of the esports and more sort of, the casual sort of players like like you and me, well, probably you, not me, as much. I'm below a camera, casual on that sort of thing. But we're seeing more and more people play CS:GO. It's actually doing better than it's ever done before. It's like 1.4 million CS:GO players on Steam over the weekend and that kind of thing. Is this the right time to be changing now, considering that it's doing better than ever?
See, this is once again where it's really interesting, because this is the best CS:GO's ever been. It's getting record numbers constantly. So for them to change it right now is potentially dangerous, because it means if they do upset the community, because often when there's been a new version of Counter-Strike, it started very buggily, and there's been a lot of issues which throws off the community. So potentially that could be damaging, but I'm hopeful that they know what they're doing this time, because I feel like there's been a lot more understanding of what's going on in esports and what the requirements are nowadays for how to have a smooth launch, even if it's not always true, with stuff like Overwatch 2 being basically blocked out for the first few days.
Well, I mean, to be fair, Valve, with Dota 2 and stuff, they had esports down before most others, and like, you can't guarantee everything's going to be perfect when it comes out the box. It's almost impossible, how complicated the technology is. But you mentioned the community sort of and the moving between one game and the other. Is this not likely to split the community in some way?
So there is potential for that in regards to how CS Source and CSGO, when those were two concurrent games running at the same time, a lot of players didn't want to switch across because CSGO was buggy. Like it was bad. I remember being one of the people who didn't originally switch across because it wasn't great. And it's stuff as well like CS Surf, if a lot of people know that. That originally wasn't particularly enjoyed on CSGO because all the maps were made for CS Source. But what I do think is that this update would have come about 2 years sooner if they weren't trying to make it compatible with as much of the community's creations as possible. So we'll see what happens, but I feel like they're going to tackle this right, but I think the skepticism is understandable, but I'm hopeful.
And what about things like all because obviously people spend vast sums of money on skins and other bits and pieces for CSGO. Now, if they move it to a new game, I guess they're going to have to allow you to transfer those over, no? Or will they start the whole thing again?
See, I think nearly everyone in the community is pretty set on the fact that everything should transfer. If they didn't, they could easily kill the game overnight, which, yeah, it would be ridiculous if they didn't. There is always a chance, because you don't always know what Valve will do. They sometimes do like to throw a curveball in there, but I don't see them destroying their entire skin market.
It would feel kind of suicide, but then Valve have made these decisions in the past that have gone horribly wrong. With things like the Steam controller and the Steam hardware and things like that. So who knows? Well, either way, Will, this is fascinating. I've learned a huge amount already today, and yeah, I think it's going to be very exciting. I think we're going to very soon find out what this Counter-Strike 2 is going to be and what's going to happen with it. So I'm sure you're excited. I'm excited as well. But thank you so much for joining me and telling me all about it.
Thank you very much.
No worries at all.